Okay, perfect. Well, salam alaikum. Good afternoon, everyone. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to our webinar, The Development of Islamic Finance in Pakistan, organized by Center of Applied Research in Islamic Economics and Finance and Department of Economics at Haldun University. Well, this session is part of our Islamic Economics and Finance webinar series, where we try to understand different country experiences in Islamic finance, not only as market stories, but also as institutional, regulatory, educational, and intellectual journeys. Today, we are very pleased to focus on Pakistan, a country that has a long and important experience in Islamic banking and finance, and that continues to go through a significant transformation in this field. We are honored to host Professor Shafiullah Ajan from the Institute of Management Sciences, IMSciences, Peshawar. Professor Jan is a leading scholar in Islamic finance, Islamic banking, participatory finance, Islamic development, and Islamic moral economy. He's also closely associated with the Center for Excellence in Islamic Finance, CEIF, at the same institution, which plays an important role in Islamic finance education, research, professional training, and industry academia engagement in Pakistan. His work is especially valuable for us because it connects Islamic finance with broader questions of development, institutional practice, partnership-based financing, case-based learning, and the moral foundations of economic life. Many of us also know his co-authored work with Professor Leonard Asutai, Model for Islamic Development, which contributes to the literature on Islamic development and Islamic moral economy. Professor Shaifullah, thank you very much for joining us today. We're delighted to host you at Haldun University, even if virtually, and we look forward to learning from your insights on the development of Islamic finance in Pakistan. The floor is yours, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for inviting me. And Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, everyone. So today I will be talking to you and those who are connected online about development of Islamic finance in Pakistan. So it'll be a historical journey that spanned from the independence in 1947 right up to the present day. So what I would do is I'll go decade by decade or a couple of decades, depending on how much contribution from the Islamic finance perspective has been done. Let me just start it. Just give me a second, okay?
Absolutely, yeah, just.
So as some of you would know that Pakistan came to being in August 1947. So it was a subcontinent, combined India, and then it's split into, at that time, into two countries, Pakistan and India. So I'll start the story of Islamic finance in Pakistan. So in the very beginning, Pakistan founding ideology called for economy rooted in Islamic principle, and the Qadi-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah was the founding father of Pakistan. He himself envisioned banking system free from riba or interest. In fact, just a year after independence in 1948, when the State Bank of Pakistan, which is the Central Bank of Pakistan, was established, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, we call him Qadi-Azam, the leader of nation. He used his inaugural address to specifically call for banking practices compatible with the Islamic idea of social and economic life. This commitment was then written into a law. The first constitution was presented in 1956.
Dear Professor, I'm terribly sorry. All apologies for interrupting you. Are you sharing a screen right now, if I may ask you, sir?
Am I screening? Am I sharing?
Are you sharing this like any presentation slides for the moment? If you are, I cannot see it. Just to let you know, if you haven't started sharing your screen or any presentation slides yet.
I thought I have done it.
That's basically. I just wanted to interrupt you.
All right. Okay. I shared in the beginning, I think, when we went.
Okay, it's there now. Yes, absolutely. I can see it. Perfect.
My apologies.
Astaghfirullah. Thank you.
So hold on. Let me make it bigger. All right. So we have two constitutions. Well, we have overall three constitutions. The first constitution was a was implemented in 1956. But then due to some political issues, the army, the dictatorship, all those things, they had to cancel it. So the second constitution was in 1962, and then we had in 1972. So what happened is that in continuation with this commitment that everything has to be according to Quran and Sunnah, this commitment was then written into the law in 1956 and 1962 Constitution. Both included clauses calling for the elimination of riba. So we need to understand it. You will keep on hearing that the Constitution talk about elimination of riba, but you will see that one is more like a suggestion, like we ought to have it, and then the recent one, and then you will see a lot of court decision that talk about implementation of riba with a time frame. So we need to eliminate it with no time frame, and then we need to eliminate it within 5 years. So this is the story you're going to be hearing in the end. So in order to make sure that the vision translated into the action, they established at that time the Council of Islamic Ideology. It came into being in 1957, and the purpose was to advise. So we need to understand it that the purpose was not to implement anything that was like removing anything that is not Islamic and then changing to Islamic. The purpose was to advise to the National Constitution, National Assembly about these laws that are against Islam. So what they did is that, it was set up in 1957 to advise on aligning these laws, including financial laws, with Islamic principle supported by the Islamic Economic Division. So at the same time, they need to have a center or a place or office. So what they did is they developed Islamic Economics Division within the central bank, Islamic Bank. So the two things happened. One was the Council of Islamic Ideology that was established in 1957. At the same time, they established Islamic Economic Division within within Islamic Bank. That work as a secretariat for that department. So that's all happened in that time. There was a lot of work, but nothing substantial happened. Then we moved to 1970s, and that was a time when Zulfikar Ali Bhutto came in a power. So what we did is, the first thing he did is he took a major step on international stage. So that was in February 1974, Pakistan hosted the Islamic Summit of Muslim Nation in Lahore. And it was this summit that member state agreed to establish Islamic Development Bank. So it's a milestone for Islamic finance globally, not just in Pakistan. So then we moved to what happened is 1976, he was overthrown and General Ziaul Haq came from. So from 1977 to 1988, that reform started, which we call Islamization era. And that is where you will see a lot of literature that Pakistan converted all their financial institution into Islamic Sharia principle. And that's where we're going to see that how this conversion was about. So what happened is so when he started, he was acting on the Council of Islamic Ideology intern report. So they issue intern report in 1979. And based on that, President Zia launched a sweeping Islamization program. What he did is, in 1979, he introduced profit and loss sharing account across all banks. So it was expected that all national banks and private banks will be offering their profit saving accounts based on the profit and loss. So big thing, we are moving toward the Islamization. In addition to that, in 1980, he issued a Mudarba Companies Act, ordinance actually, alongside with the new Zakat and Ushar ordinance. So what they did is that now the state will be collecting Zakat at 2.5% from all institutions. what was the mechanism, and still the mechanism is that if you have your money in any bank, commercial bank, private or government owned, and on first Muharram, first Ramzan, they collect money. So even if you have your money for one day, they will be collecting the tax. So it's just a generalized, it doesn't need to have 1 year before they collect. So anybody who find their money in the saving accounts will be paying zakat. So what a lot of people are doing is people are doing two things even now. Either they move their money before the zakat is deducted from the saving account to the current accounts to avoid the zakat, or sometime we give the affidavit to the government, to the bank, that please do not collect the zakat for me. I will distribute zakat myself. So you write a stamp paper, you sign it from New Republic, and you submit it to the bank. So for that, they don't collect the zakat. So in Pakistan, usually a big portion of zakat doesn't go to the Baitul Mal that is created by the government. In fact, 80-90% of the zakat is distributed by the people themselves, which has advantages, but at the same time, there are disadvantages. Advantages in the sense that you can identify who to give zakat because people around you in the community deserve zakat, so you can identify them. And when you look at these recent COVID, even a lot of people got hit a lot. A lot of people lost jobs. People didn't have the daily labor didn't have jobs. But that zakat provided a cushion to provide, basic necessities to the people. So that did a very good job. You would not see a lot of social upset because of that, even just because people were taking care of the community. But what happened on the other side is that zakat has created a society which evolved into a beggar-like society, So these people who live on zakat will go from village to village, from house to house, collect zakat, right? So they have a monthly stipend tied up to a lot of houses. So what happened is zakat, the spirit of zakat is that, you help people when they need it, but you don't create like a welfare kind of state, where you just give them. Zakat is like a temporary, it's like giving a hand, somebody falls and you pick them up and say, okay, you're fine, you just go on. So this is how I see the purpose of zakat is that you temporarily help them, you make sure that people become independent and they don't ask money again. But instead, what we did is we somehow develop into a mechanism where they collect zakat, they live on it. Even you start a business for them, they just use whatever the money you give them from the business, and the time they finish the money from the businesses, they go back to collecting zakat. So that mentality is not good in my sense, because that take away the pride from you. And Islam talk about the pride, the dignity. And we can talk about this somewhere else. But this is what happened. But by 1981, the first Mudarba company was launched as a result of the reforms. And Islamic banking instrument were being, so we start experimenting these Islamic financial instruments, these contract in national banks. Then in 1984, that's where I'm going to come back to. I'm going to move to the next slide, but then I'm going to come to this 1984, the Banking and Financial Service Amendment Ordinance. What it talks about, it started shifting all banks financing to Islamic modes. And by 1985, a full switch to non-interest banking for domestic transaction was mandated. It means everything changed technically from conventional to Islamic, and some exception like, international trade, international transaction, international bond, they just kept it this way. This era finished in 1985 when the Federal Sharia Court ruled that the existing banking law were incompatible with Islam, setting the stage for legal battle. So when we go to the next slides, it talk about this verdicts. In 1990s, the first verdict declared Islamic, declare interest-based law prohibited it to. They are against Islam. They prohibited it. But what happened is the government went against this. So they asked the government cannot actually go against themselves, where they push some banks to appeal against it. So it went to the Federal Sharia Code, and the Federal Sharia Code is like, oh, listen, we need to reassess everything. So in order to reassess it, we need to take that decision back, and we need to re-evaluate everything. So what happened is it went back to the Sharia appellate bench, where they challenge it. But what the Sharia appellate did is that at the same time, when they were giving the decision and they said, oh, it's must and we need to continue with it, they did another thing. What they did is they review this 1984 Banking and Financial Service Amendment or of law, that expected all the banks. So they say, let's go back and look at these things, because in order to continue with Islamic banking and Islamic financial system, we need to see what has happened. So they said that while it successfully changed the legal wording and name of banking instrument, it ultimately failed to eliminate riba. So the change was just done, like, let's don't call it riba, let's call it markup. So what they did, so the religious scholars, the court, the economists widely agreed that the transition was a surface level cosmetic change rather than a genuine shift to Islamic economics. The structural flaws and loopholes that prevented the 1984 ordinance for achieving its goal the court categorized into many areas. They say they just rebranded their interest as a markup. So it was just changing, all these conventional name with the Islamic name. Mostly they were doing buyback contracts. So the return was guaranteed. So true Islamic finance was not there, because the true Islamic finance will require the risk. It will require the share for the actual profit and losses. However, Islamic banks in Pakistan continued to guarantee fixed predetermined return to depositor, and fixed charges to borrower mirror the conventional interest based on the buyback concept. Bayina is like, I sell it to something you and sell it back to me on a deferred payment. So that's what they did. So they just say that, it's just a disguise, and at the same time, when you look at it, banks at the time, they were not trained enough to do Islamic finance, so they call it, this was more transformational change. And that experience as transformation actually failed in Pakistan, because the commercial bank, the central bank, has no proper training to run Islamic banking. They didn't know how to do the operations in compliance with the Sharia. They simply applied old interest-based risk matrices to the new Islamic terminologies. The same time, the SBP discount rate was there. It continued with the same conventional discount rates as their primary monetary tool. This meant that the macro level monetary policy of the country remained entirely interest driven. Similarly, tax and auditing system follow the conventional banking system. Adapting them to handle physical trade, asset-owned trade by the banks proved too complex for the bureaucracy. So they didn't understand. They just wanted to put everything on the paper to look it good. Similarly, there was a corporate level dishonesties, Nobody would be willing to do the true spirit of profit and loss. What they did is that would require, but they were not doing transparent bookkeeping. They had to do some double account bookkeeping to avoid taxes. So that caused the bank to refuse to enter into true banking Islamic profit sharing based partnership with those, with the fear that these businesses will falsely report losses. At the same time, public was not ready as well, because nobody's willing to take the risk, and go in and share their profit based on this risk concept. They all just wanted to have a fixed return. Even I speak to my father, they would say, oh, private bank is not a good one because they can run away with the bank. So I would just want to go in, want my pension, my saving in the national bank, and national banks were controlled by, or they are always controlled by the government. They do what the State Bank of Pakistan would do. So they would always call markup instead of interest. They even now have this conventional national bank have account, which is called profit and loss account. But in actual term, this is not a profit and loss. They just change interest into markups. So they still have it, by the way, even with all the changes. And there were a lot of severe legal and judicial pushbacks as well, because that they have to have exemption for foreign debt. The ordinance couldn't touch the foreign loans, international trade, financing, government souvenir debt, creating a contradictory dual bank system. So they didn't want to, they want to have an Islamic system, but at the same time, they were running a dual system in the back. And so what happened is when the Sharia court looked at it in 1991, they just say that, listen, this is not good. This is just mechanized mode of financing used by the bank since 1985. And they criticize this buyback by in a contract, and they call them un-Islamic, and they just say that this is riba. But that ruling has a long-term impact of the evolution of Islamic banks. People start disbelieving Islamic banks. So you will see a lot of things happening around the world in 80s, and especially in 90s, but nothing happened in Pakistan in 90s because everybody just, even now for some people, when they hear of even Mizan Bank, full-fledged bank, this memories of 1980s, 1990s, when they said that they were fooled into Islamic bank, the trust is lost. And I think that's this reputation risk is very important when you look at the growth of Islamic finance, because there is a certain big number of people who would always believe that what if in the end of the day we find out that it was just a lie to the public. It's just because of this political decision that I was telling you, this political, the Zia era where he promote, all the dictators when they come, they would use religion as a power tool, as a protector of religion. So what they did is that his era was like he's the protector of religion, and then he went into a lot of wars, calling it religion war, So he had to use the religion, whether the cosmetic or real. So he started a lot of things, you need to give him a credit because he initiated a lot of thinking, a lot of initiations. But at the same time, there was another perspective where that was cosmetically created as well, because we were not ready institutionally to have a full-fledged Islamic banking overnight. So this is where it defined that nothing happened in 1990s. A lot of people were just too afraid. So what happened is, but I want to continue with this federal Sharia verdict before I go and start taking a lot of things from the 2001, because I just want to continue that. What happened in 1991? They just gave the timeline and they say, please go ahead and implement it. But then they went against, the government didn't want to appeal against it. So what they did is they asked these national institutions to appeal against this decision. So what happened is Taqi Usmani was part of it. They gave a landmark ruling in 1999. The Supreme Court ordered complete elimination of riba by June 2001. 1999, 2001, over the night. One of the strongest ruling in Islamic finance. But again, people went, institution went, the government indirectly went, and they just say, listen, the definition of riba in 1990s has evolved over the period of time, and everything evolved, institution involved. We cannot just continue with the same verdict. We need to go back and do our homework again. They had to find a way to do it. So they, in 2002, they reconstituted a bench, suspended the 1999 judgment completely, and sent back the case to the Federal Sharia Court to reevaluate it. And I don't know if you are aware of it, but when when you go to Supreme Court, the dates are not like, every day or something. Sometimes they will give you a date for 6 months, a year or something, so it was just lingering and people are going there and back and forth, and people, and riba doesn't change it. The riba is riba no matter what you do it, but that was an excuse for them. So it went all the way till 2022, and the Federal Sharia Court then they say the case remained 2 decades until they gave the the fresh verdict in April 2000, ordering the complete elimination of the interest-based banking system by December 2027. And I know you're going to ask me a question: are we ready for it? Do you think we have the instrument to actually the monetary instrument to actually completely convert Islamic from conventional Islamic? That's important question. But what they did is they took the verdict and they sent it to the Assembly, the National Constitution, and they added to 38F. They amended. So remember, this is not new. One way or another way, I'll talk about it because this is another case study I want to talk about it. This Article 38F was there in the first two constitution. I think it was in Article 22, and then they changed it in 1972 in 38F. What they did in the new in 2024 is that they added a timeline to it. They just say we need to have a timeline to it. So that's again is a issue. Like, a lot of people are celebrating, now it's part of the constitution, but actually it's not part of the fundamental rights. Constitution has different parts. The fundamental is the one that has to be implemented at all the costs. Actually, it is rather, it's part of the principal policies. It's the constitutional, it's ought to be. It's part of the ought to be that it's in principle we should make sure that everything is integrated and everything should be Islamicized ideally. I hope you understand it. So it's not part of the fundamental rights. So it means I'm just coming back to you. It serves as a guiding commitment for the state, implemented through institution and public policy rather than direct individual enforcement. So it means when the 2028 start, the government say, oh, listen, we tried our best, but our commitment is still there. But since it's not a fundamental right, we can extend it, but we are working toward it. So that's one opinion, but the other is like we are working towards. So as long as we are working, but it's not happening in 2028 because it's not the direct individual enforcement.
Professor,
so you have any?
Yes, absolutely. I'd like to just ask something very quick. I'm not very familiar with the whole bureaucratic and the public structure in Pakistan, but a quick question: how is this possible while the government's fighting so hard, just to appeal and to stop the certain process of, let's say, if we call it Islamization, but at the same time, it seems you still have this Federal Sharia Court, FSC. So with Taki Osmani and all the other, let's say, people and decision makers. So is it how is the structure? I mean, do you have kind of an independent FSC despite the government involvement and government resistance? They can still, what do they still represent the grassroots? Do they still represent the people? And how come they didn't replace the FSC to start with, by the way? I mean, if I may ask you.
I see they didn't directly, the government will say, listen, this is the FSC decision. There is nothing I can do it because there are technicals involved, So,
but that is my point. They still, the whole system in Pakistan somehow has to allow for more or less kind of independent FSC or Federal Sharia Court. Is that the case?
Yes, but I can bring in some new information.
Okay.
So when when the Council of Islamic Ideology got established, right? And the role was and it become constitutionally established. It was not advisory, but the work was advisory. It still work as advisory. You can ask me the question that there are so many interest-based institutions. I'm sure the Council of Islamic Ideology will be going through all the constitution para by para, recommending all those paras that are in conflict with the Sharia. For the last 50, 60, 70 years, they've been doing it. But they are just advisories, so they would advise, but politically, people are not very educated to trace them, so people will be always happy. We have a famous saying that you run people after a red light, the car is going with a red light and people are running after it. So this is metaphorically, we say that the government can always do something for people to be hopeful something will happen. So when this happened, you need to understand it that this is not new. The elimination of riba was part of the 1956 Constitution. It was retained in 1962 Constitution, and it continued in 1973 Constitution, which is still intact as a part of 38F. But 38F formed part of the principle of policy. So like I mentioned, these are the guiding commitment, which are constitutional directive designed to guide the state, social and economic development. Similarly, policy orientation provision can be found in many constitution system around the world, just like, anywhere in the world. But remember, when we use 37F as a article to eliminate the riba, we are also using another article in our constitution, which is Article 227, which required laws to conform to the injection of Islam. So 38F is the principal policy, the principle of policy, but then we combine it with the Article 227, which require all the laws in the country to conform to the injection of Islam. And that's combinedly they are using to, the court is using, because the court cannot impose something that is part of the principle of policy. You need to understand it, because these are just ought to be, it's not like fundamental rights. So since they are not fundamental rights, the Sharia court cannot use as fundamental right. So what they do is they go to the Article 227 and they say, listen, the Constitution talks about elimination of everything and conformity of all the laws to Islam. Since these two things exist there, we now need to push reforms. And that's what the Federal Sharia Court pushed, those reforms. But again, we are not ready for it. I'm telling you, I usually give an example to my students that I was like, conversion of Islamic bank and all the Islamic finance, Islamic banks had like a nice sports car. But for a nice sports car, you need to have a nice carpeted road. So to run it fast, you need to have a nice carpeted car. So you need to have financial tools. You need to have monetary tools to convert all banks to Islamic. We don't have it. And I'm going to be just giving you some statistics of how much debt we have. We have around 270, 300, I think $300 billion debt. And we can hardly issue 1 billion worth of sukuk in the country, So 1 billion sukuk covering 300 billion debt is almost impossible, because when you are converting everything, you need to convert all your debt, or you need to refinance the debt into Islamic, which is you are only doing one part of the 300 you are doing it. So that is the limitation, and that's everybody talking about it, and that's what you're going to be in 2028, you're going to be reading about it, or we will be discussing that why it didn't happen. And I think this is what we're going to be talking about, that it didn't happen because we were not ready for it. But on the policies level, they made it part of the 26th constitutional amendment in 2000 to make it compulsory elimination of riba, the policy guidelines, by 1st of January 2028. We still have a couple of years to see how it happens. But when I look at the State Bank of Pakistan, they have a big push. When they issue license for banking, they don't issue conventional licenses. They are issuing Islamic. So the push is there for the banks to convert their existing branches into Islamic branches, and they are establish only Islamic branches. So the will is there. It's just a matter of how fast we would be able to convert all those things. So these are the two different findings that you can take with audience can take it, that first Islamization area in 1980s was a lot of superficial changes, and that had hit back the people trust, and that's why nothing happened till 2000. And at the same time, this policy of conversion everything by January 2028 is part of the principle of policies, which is not part of the fundamental right, which is our good to do it. It's like beautification. So these things happen, and these are things happen. So at the same time, when this happened, this transformation failed, and you saw this thing. So they say we will do instead of transformation, we will move to another stage. Which will not be transformation, but by bit and pieces, we will experiment things, and then we will apply them, and we will take it from there. So what they did is that they State Bank of Pakistan dual banking system they adopted. So they allowed legally at the same time for the Islamic banks to exist along with the conventional banks. So because of that, SBP, State Bank of Pakistan strategy in 2001. Did I change the slide though? Yeah. So we had first Islamic bank in the form of Mizan Bank in 2002. And it was the first dedicated Islamic commercial bank licensed by the State Bank of Pakistan. And that's where a lot of things started happening slowly. So when they established the first full-fledged Islamic bank in 2004, they established Islamic banking department to regulate, supervise, and promote Islamic banks. So basically, now we will have a governor sitting at the top of Islamic State Bank of Pakistan, and then there will be a deputy governor, conventional and policies, and Islamic bank governor and policies, and they will have some separate things and combine things. But now we have two deputy governors and one governor who is controlling the State Bank of Pakistan. So at the same time, when this was happening, two things other beside the bank happened. First is the takaful. So imagine Islamic bank started in 2002, and you are doing a lot of Islamic contracts, and banking regulation require these contracts to be underwritten by takaful insurance. So all these contracts at one time, on one side they were Islamic contracts like ijara, but the other hand they were underwritten by, or they were insured by the conventional one. From 2002 to 2005, when the insurance ordinance in 2002 was amended, and the takaful Islamic companies license was issued in 2005. So when they issued the first 2005, and they amended or they added in 2012. So the first full-fledged takaful company came into being, and that was the Pak Kuwait Takaful. It started operation in 2006. And then it was followed by Salam Takaful, which used to be called Pakistan Takaful Limited, and then Pakistan Qatar Takaful. Then later in 2012, what happened is they revised this condition, and they allowed these conventional insurance companies to have Islamic windows as well. So now these Islamic full-fledged, we have Islamic full-fledged takaful companies, but at the same time, we have the windows of the conventional banks offering Islamic insurance as well. So I'll be speaking a little bit on that as well later. So what happened in a lot of things happen, when we had this dual bank system. So this is just a snapshot in a way of rapid growth of Islamic Bank in 2010 to 2018. So that is a time when we had a new strategic plan, which was covering 2014 to 2018. And that time, it started with Mizan Bank, but then in that time, in 2010 to 2018, we had full 5 fledged banks and 16 commercial bank operating Islamic windows, together running over 2,000 branches and holding 13% share of the total banking asset during the time between 2010 and 2018. In 2011, the State Bank also launched the first long-term, as I mentioned, strategic plan, which was covering the 2014 to 2018. And in 2013, the Sukuk market expanded as well, which started in 2008, and then government of Pakistan issued their first Ijara Sukuk in 2008. I'll be covering that, the capital market, in the next slides. Okay. So Pakistan adopted the UFI standards for accounting and auditing in Islamic finance during that time. That following year, Pakistan Stock Exchange introduced KMI, Karachi Mizan Bank Index 30. So this is index of Sharia compliance. Banks issued, I think Mizan Bank was behind that as well. Taqi Usmani and his family, his son was part of that index. So now we have a Karachi Stock Exchange, Pakistan Stock Exchange, which is the index of 100. But then at the same time, we have Sharia compliant firms, which comes under the KMI 30 index. In 2017, Islamic microfinance grew as well substantially with the Akhuwat Foundation. Akhuwat Foundation itself is a case study, a phenomenal case studies, because it's based on Qarz Hasna most of the time. And I think the recovery rate is 98 point something, which is phenomenal, you know. Yeah. But these people that I have met from Akhuwat Foundation are very passionate about Islamic finance, you know. So they have a policy that they don't have like a 4-wheeler car. So when they travel and they do distribute, they have 2-wheeler or 3-wheelers. So it has to be on bikes they don't afford, or they don't invest, you know, Land Cruisers and all those expensive cars. So they want to be, and they run these institutions, these loans through a mosque. So they come together in the mosque and they combine it. So it has reached to the million from the north to the south. It has reached to the million of people. And I suggest to have a session with Dr. Amjad, who is the head of it, and he has amazing stories to share with. They have a nice GPS system where you can just randomly choose anybody which was their client. Their details will be there. You can call them and you can investigate all the information, all the transaction that the Akhuwat had done with that phenomenal system. Very, very inspiring case study that you can you can present. You can have a session on. Inshallah. And by 2018, the asset of Islamic banks industry had crossed 2.4 trillion rupees, Pakistani rupees, with a deposit at reaching 1.9 trillion. So it just started picking it up. And this is just the latest landscape that, and if somebody's interested to read quarterly on development of Islamic finance, we have State Bank is issuing Islamic Bank Bulletin. So if you search Islamic Bank Bulletin, you will have quarterly reports. So if you look at it, that this is March 2026, the latest report that is providing you that we have grown to the asset of 14.7 trillion Pakistani rupees. Quarterly, that is 1.3 growth with December 2025. And then we have deposit of 11.3 trillion. Financing are reaching to 5.6 trillion. And the number of branches have increased to 7,674, which has grown 1.5 to the previous quarter. So in one quarter, 1.5% growth is a very good growth. In addition, in 2018, it was 13%. Now it reached to the total share of Islamic banking in the asset-wise, in the total banking, it's 23%, whereas the deposit has reached to 28.5% of the total deposits in Pakistan, and financings are 38.2. And the last one, if you look at it, that just gives you the growth and market share. So in March, it was 21.1%. So within 1 year, in March 2026, it has reached to 23%. So that's a growth of 2% of Islamic finance assets within 1 year. So this it's substantial. I think it's just because of the big push from the State Bank of Pakistan as well, and represent, by the government of Pakistan as well. And this is interesting as well. And if you look at it, of the March 2025 till March 26, in between December 25, 3 quarters, Murabia has reduced from 13% to 9%.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing, but we have devised other method that, banks will always find a way to maximize their profit as well. So Ijara has reduced from 4.4 to actually increased. Yes, but surprisingly, it has increased on one hand, but a lot of banks have moved from car Ijara to diminishing musharaka Ijara. So even it has increased, but at the same time, that car Ijara, which is usually one of the biggest portion of the bank portfolio, has moved from Ijara financing to the diminishing musharaka. And then we have, and if you look at the musharaka, and they're like, it's somewhere in between 26, 25, it's good, everybody say, oh yeah, we do musharaka, we do profit and loss. But actually, this is not a musharaka. It is another contract we do. It's called running musharaka. Have you heard of running musharaka?
No, I haven't heard
Running
of
musharaka is like banks would pick up these blue chip firms, and they will give them an alternative to a running finance. So running finance is like, instead of needing finance and going back to the bank and have the approval all the time, you have a lump sum approval. So you will have, like, say, $500 million approval. And you can go anytime you want to, and it's like a overdraft protection, So you can go, it's like a credit card, you just swipe it. So every time you swipe it, you have a pre-approved money, and any money that you swipe and you utilize, you only pay the interest on that. So conventional bank were making a lot of money. Islamic bank was like, they're making a lot of money, we need to find an alternative for it. So they went for the running musharaka. But they don't do the running musharaka with you and with me or small SMEs. They do with blue chip firms, which will always have a guaranteed musharaka returns. So, which is okay, but what they do it, so they would do classes, bank would give like tranches, like, 5 times they will borrow the money, and then they will have the averages, and they will calculate the averages. So in the first average, when they calculate, they will say, oh, on average, we need 15% return. And we receive 15% on the full approval, $300 million. We have approval. In the first tranche, I had 15% return. I'm fine. In the next tranche, I will make sure that my profit margin is 0.00001%, and your profit margin becomes 99.99999%. Because I already received my 15%, and now the rest of the profit you can keep it, and you will have free borrowing. Because I have already received. So a lot of people will criticize it. They will say, listen, the bank is not using their own money. The bank is using depositors' money. And the deposit will always want to have more return. They just don't want 15% return. if there is a second phase of investment with the through Musharka with the blue chip company, they would want to have another 15%. They will want to have 50% return this year. But so the bank has no right to change their investment proportion from, let's say, 30% to 0.0001%. But the bank would say that it's urf, it's just a custom. As a custom, when I become the when I become the mudarib of your deposits, as a customary, I can do whatever I can do with the money, because that's the customary as custom as integrated part of it. So that's their plea. My plea would be that I want to have more return. But if you see this 25, 26%, big portion of that 25, 23% is not the actual musharka that will be done with the consumer or with you or with the SMEs or with me. It will be done with the blue chip companies through running musharka.
I see.
And then diminishing musharka, if you look at it, this will be probably more. And now we are moving the car musharka, diminishing musharka plus home financing. Right? And then we have salam, which ideally should, because Pakistan is an agriculture country, that you would like to see this agriculture financing as a bigger proportion for the banks. And then we have istisna, which is probably will be confined to big institutions, borrowing for the or doing istisna with constructions. But still, 10% is still something is better than yeah. So this is the 2026 snapshot of the mode-wise financings in Pakistan. And you can find a lot of other information in that.
It's rather diverse, Professor, if I may make a comment. It is.
It is. But you would want to see industry-wise distribution of this. I have not added that slide for you, but if you go to the report, then you need to see where the diminishing musharka has done it, where the muraba has been done it, where is so if it's done by those sectors which are profit-making sectors, which are short-term, then you can argue that the money is not going into the real economic development, rather it is going into the economic growth and quick profit. And then you can then have a look at Mehmet's critique, and then that critique will talk about that whether these banks are going into long-term investments, economic development, or they're going to short terms, right? Sharia-wise, whatever they're doing in the form, they're doing perfectly fine, We did a recent publication where we talk about Maqasid the Sharia, everybody talks about Maqasid Sharia, but we need to understand one thing. I don't know about Turkey, but when we follow Hanfi in Pakistan, we do not teach Maqasid Sharia. That's the Shafi school. So that is something we imported from Malaysia. The central bank with the Bank Negara will have a lot of training section, and they will hear about Maqasid Sharia. But how much they internalize is the question that we need to ask it, right? So when we were interested that whether these chief executives, decision makers, presidents of these different institutions actually believe in Maqasid Sharia. So when we interview them, they say, listen, I'm giving you halal return. That is Maqasid Sharia. I'm not responsible for the Maqasid Sharia in that sense, because I'm only responsible to give you the halal, So maximizing my profit is perfectly fine. Community development, if I do, is fine. If I don't do it, it is not required, because that's not I'm responsible for. Even we ask them, you said, look, protection of life and health benefit and all. They say we provide them health insurance, we give them family picnics, the superficial kind of thing. And that's how they started understanding Maqasid Sharia. So that's a challenge in Pakistan, So you will read a lot of books, you will see, a lot of people will talk about it. But in reality, when you work with the madaris in Pakistan, they don't teach Maqasid Sharia. Maybe when they go to the specialization level, they touch upon the Maqasid Sharia. But in the basic alim level, they don't touch upon the Maqasid Sharia
Professor, do you think it's just a matter of, if I may ask you, sir, is it just a matter of branding, or because again, if it lacks the internalization, and then of course it becomes more like a PR or branding matter. But I don't know. What's your take on it, if I may ask you very
My
quickly?
take on it that it's a genuine thing as long
Uh-huh.
as you understand it and you
Uh-huh.
internalize
Uh-huh.
it. If you do not internalize it, but you just use it because everybody talks about Makkah Sharia, then you can decide on your own, is it really genuine or it's not genuine. But the concept, the idea, the approach to the welfare of the community, the ummah is a genuine thing. How
Okay.
much I do is how much I internalize these maqasid, and then I divert profit to community development
Right.
is something that we need to look at it. And you must
Yeah.
you must read a lot of paper which measure these Makai Sharia from such perspective. And sometime even this Islamicity index, Muslim countries don't score high on those,
Yeah.
the non-Muslim countries. So that just give you another picture of
Yeah.
how much we have integrated Makai Sharia
Yeah.
in the spirit, in the essence, in the substance wise. So
Yeah.
that's the open question that you can ask,
Yeah.
and people will have different opinions.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, when all these things are happening, if you look at it, the Sukuk market, which is very important because you need your monetary policy, you need to have you need to have Basel requirements, you need to have tier one, tier ones, all those high quality liquid assets. You need to have government souvenirs, sakuks, all those things. So the issue by the government in 2025 are worth 2.2. Just in that year, it was worth 2.2. And that was a big push they had to do it. And the first sakuk, the government of Pakistan issue was in 2008. The first Sukuk that the Pakistan issued internationally was in 2005. But the government of Pakistan owning the asset in the country, and that Sukuk was in 2008. And then total issues from 1999 to 2025 are 8.7 trillion, with the outstanding around 6 trillion Sukuks right now in the market. In March 26, the 32nd Sukuk auctions, attracting total bid of 445 billion Pakistani rupees. That was the most recent one, followed by first ever hybrid Sukuk. So we move from the Ijara to the hybrid. And the hybrid, we combine the Ijara and the Murabiha. And what I did, I went to the different forms, and I have some notes on that. So if you're interested, I can share. I have through AI, I have driven the diagram of how they have structure as well, because I didn't find the structure, but I can share that with you as well, how they have structured the first ever hybrid Sukuk as well. And that raised 109 billion. And they are always oversubscribed, by the way. So but if at the same time, when you look at the insurance industry, we have total gross written premium is 708, small actually compared to other sectors. We have 708 billion total insurance sector, which include Islamic and conventional. Not very, still time to grow it as well. With that, it has a life insurance 74%, 54%, family takaful is 11%, and non-life insurance are 29% of that total. So, at the same time, we have mutual funds, which is around 4.31 trillion in total, and which has expanded 6.8 times, which is a good growth ratio since 2019. And roughly 44% of the 4.31 trillion are Islamic, or in other words, 1.9 trillion worth of mutual funds in the whole country are Sharia compliant, which is or around 190 Sharia compliant SEP, Security Exchange Commission Pakistan registered funds. So we have at the same time, recently, Pakistan has launched Green Sukuk
Mm.
in 2005, and the guidelines for that was approved in 2021. But I want to tell you something interesting here as well. So I was talking to some people from the SECP, and I was like, the basic regulation was approved in 2005, which was a green bond.
Mm.
So I was like, green bond, what about green sukuk? And they say the rules for documentation is the same, either
Mm.
that's green bond or green sukuk, right?
Mm.
So I was like, how come we haven't done it? And they say they are not specialized people who can do the proper documentation for that.
Mm.
But when I looked at it, the Sukuk, I think the first Sukuk by the water power department was issued for turbines for
Okay.
which is like a green Sukuk, you don't have documentation in
Yeah.
the thing. But I was looking through the World Bank report, and the World
Mm.
Bank actually talks about all the steps that you would need for the green. They move the people, the community, they provide them
Mm.
the alternative,
Mm.
how much green they wasted, how much green they're going to
Yeah.
build, all those things. And
Yeah.
it talks about that it has a plus impact on the environment.
Yeah.
So in that sense, that if you call it a green Sukuk, not in the documentation, but the essence, it was
Mm.
issued in 2004, 2005 by
Okay.
the Water and Power. And then Pakistan has issued multiple power sector, thermal extension, thermal energy-based Sukuks in
Mm.
Pakistan. If you go back and redocument them and recheck it, then you will see that internationally, Pakistan was ahead of all the Malaysian. For example,
Mm.
Malaysian were the one who issued, I think they issued in 2012 or 13. I think,
Mm.
I'm not sure exact, but I think that's the time when they
Mm.
started issuing it. We were way ahead of them when it comes
Yeah.
to that for the environment perspective. So that cover the whole Pakistan. So if you
Mm.
look at it, the achievement, regardless of all the criticism and all the critiques I made it, we still have so far achieved 23% of the market
Mm.
share in 2+ decades. We have
Mm.
now 7 full-fledged banks, and I
Mm.
missed one thing. We have one digital,
Yeah.
fully licensed bank,
Okay.
Rakmi Islamic Digital Bank,
Okay.
and we have 16 conventional banks along with their Islamic windows, including one Mashriq Digital Bank, which is a digital bank with the Islamic window as well.
Mm.
We have a robust Sharia governance and regulatory framework. We have a dual level Sharia framework. By the way, just to quickly, we have one Sharia governance, one Sharia board at bank level,
Mm.
and one Sharia board at the State Bank of Pakistan level. So the process and all those things has to go through the bank level Sharia board, and Sharia board need to have 3 members at least, one a chairman, one is a resident Sharia board member, and one a general member.
Mm.
Sharia board member, resident Sharia board member is like a bank employee.
Mm.
He's there 24 hours a day. So all the day-to-day activities are overtaken by the resident board Sharia member.
Mm.
And then there is a chairman and there is a member. So 3 is the minimum, and that can increase. So usually they have 4 or 5. Sometimes they have a law person as well. Sometimes they have an economist or Islamic finance professor there as well.
Mm.
And the same composition, one way or another way, is a board. They have like 12, 13 members. I don't remember the exact numbers, but they will have from a different sects. So they will have the Shia sect, they will have Sunni, and within
Mm.
the Sunni, they have different sects to represent different school of thought. And then they will have chartered accountant, someone from the chartered accountant sector, someone from the taxation sector,
Mm.
someone from law firm, someone from other institutions. That will be a group that will be overtaking the Sharia guidelines from State Bank of Pakistan.
Yeah.
So that's the Sharia governance regulatory framework that define it. We have robust new one. We have diverse ecosystem. We have Muraba, you also already observe it, Ijara, Musharaka, Takaful. We have the pioneer role in Islamic finance in the form of Akhuwat. We have active implementation of IUFI standards. We follow the Islamic Financial Service Board standards. The challenge we have the complete elimination of riba from the economy, which is the code maintained, but I told you the limitations as well.
Yeah.
We have then we need to look at the standardization of Sharia ruling across institution. For example, Mizan Bank is the first Islamic bank, but they follow the accounting standard, but they don't follow the accounting reporting of the IUFI. So
Okay.
they do the international accounting standards. And the reason
Okay.
probably they do is because they compete with conventional bank as well. So they don't want the apple orange comparison. They want apple to apple, orange to
Okay.
apple. That
Okay.
I think that's probably the rationale for that. We had a study, early study done in Pakistan, and that study will be linked with the education sector as well. And that study, CAP study, the CAP study identified that we have a shortage of skilled Islamic finance professional. You know, when you are converting the whole banking sector into Islamic, so all these people either need to be trained into Islamic or you need to have additional HR. So that's a challenge for the academia as well. And then we are embracing the digital Islamic banking, fintech integration. I think that will be a very exciting stage, which started as well, because a lot of things that we as Islamic finance cannot do, it would be able to be done when we introduce the fintech technology. We will be able to trace the halal, haram. We will be able to trace the zakat calculation, all those things through digitally. And then I also spoke about, a challenge of people acceptability, because they have bad memories of the Islamization area. So we need to genuinely do awareness among the general public. So the future, another future map is the government is collecting a lot of money through national saving organization. So that's the government directly collecting money from public. A lot of pension funds go to that national savings. Now the challenge is that converting all these conventional interest-based high returns into Islamic, because that is one of bigger challenge for the government as well. And they need to continue collect money from, so they start devising different contract to be able to offer high return. But again, just offering high return, bring back the memories of the Zia era, and then we need to expand Islamic bank to the actual rural areas, under serve areas, because that's the ultimate objective of Islamic banks, to serve the underprivileged, underserved people in the community. And then we need to, at the same time, forge global linkages with the GCC, Malaysian Islamic, and that we need to standardize a lot of contracts, or standardization will have a lot of regulatory taxation issues. So these are the challenges when we talk about global, what we will be encountering as well. But in continuation of that CAP study I talk about, which identify a lot of gap for the future, what the State Bank did is that the State Bank initiated a challenge fund and asked all the education institution in the country to send proposal to establish Center for Excellence in Islamic Finance. So going through a lot of stages, and I was part of that proposal as well, because I was defending my center. The government of Pakistan, the State Bank, with the UK funding, established 3 Center for Excellence in Pakistan. One is the Center for Excellence in Islamic Finance in my institute. That's where I am. One was in Karachi, Institute of Business, Institute of Business, IBA, forgot the name, IBA, and one is LUMS. So 3 centers were created. And one of the role of these 3 centers is to promote Islamic finance across other institutions. So the issue that I encountered now is that we have 22 institutions in Pakistan, including International Islamic University in Islamabad. And it has the legacy of producing very known people, people taught there, Dr. Fahim, Dr. Mohsin, Dr. Salman, all those people who had tenure working with I think Humayun Dar was there as well. He studied there. So it has a legacy of Islamic finance, and the Islamic finance is being offered by 2 departments there, and along with one department, which is the accounting and finance department. So 2 departments, two schools and 1 department is collectively running Islamic finance, the bachelor level all the way to the PhD level. But the issue that I encounter is that we lack a standardized national PhD and MS curriculum in Pakistan. So what happened is, when you lack national standardized curriculum, then different people, according to their understand, have developed different type of curriculum, which may be linked with the industry and which may be completely de-linked with the industry. And that will have future challenges for the people who are graduating from this academia. Another problem is that Pakistan has been dominated by Islamic banking solely. Very rarely you will see Islamic economic theory, Islamic development. So a lot of time when you have these conferences, they will be sponsored by Islamic banks. So when they are sponsored by Islamic banks, the agenda will be the financialization of a lot of things. You know what I mean? So so that's one of the challenges. So I think we need to, and this is what I keep bringing up at different forums, is the standardization of curriculum. So what I do as my role as a Center for Excellence is, the province that I live in, I have developed a relationship with a lot of institutions that are offering degrees at bachelor level, master level. I offer them a standardized, prepared curriculum, just to make sure that we follow the same curriculum. And I usually I revisit my curriculum time to time with the industry to make sure that I have integrated all the changes, all the innovation that the industry demand, and that we need to offer in the form of HR to the industries. In addition, what we're doing is we are running a lot of Madaris courses. So what I do is, I have, with the funding of State Bank of Pakistan, I go to any Madaris, and which is not easy, by the way, in Pakistan. Usually there is a big segregation between Madaris and the school system.
Yeah.
So the trust needs to be, so we've been working with them for the last 4 or 5 years. So the trust has been developed. So I run 30-hour introductory course on what is a bank, what is insurance, what is money, what is Islamic bank, what is takaful, how the money works. And this is very important, because when I teach these people, then they spread to the villages when they qualified. So they take it with them to the mosques. So when people come to them and when they ask about Islamic finance, these muftis, these alims are aware of the Islamic finance, aware of Islamic banks. So their answer is no, there is no such thing as Islamic finance, or there is no such thing as Islamic bank. Their answer is that yes, it is a proper Sharia compliant banking or takaful, just because of this 30 hours is and what I'm doing is, I train them, I help them to come to universities, and I provide them scholarships. I have a lot of scholarship from the banks, and some money that I take from the projects, I put it on the scholarship. So every semester I will have 4 or 5 muftis graduating in MS in Islamic finance. This is a good integration, because they are studying the conventional system, and they have their madrasa as well. PhD wise, there are only few institutions in Pakistan that are offering PhD as Islamic banking as a full-fledged degree.
Mm.
So there will be Islamic PhDs, but they will be like a thesis writing in Islamic finance. Like a lot of university abroad in developed countries are offering a thesis-based PhDs. My university is offering a full-fledged Islamic business and finance PhD, MS, and a BS. So we have around 6 PhDs in Islamic finance. So we have Islamic microfinance, we have Islamic financial services, we have on Sukuk and regulations, we have somebody on Takaful, we have I'm developmentalist. So we have a group of people. Somehow Allah's will, we all come together, all together, 6, 7 people. Otherwise, a lot of people, a lot of universities are still struggling to find the quality PhDs at the universities level to start full-fledged Islamic business and finance.
Yeah. Yeah.
You need to have 3 PhDs to start a PhD in Pakistan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So that's pretty much covering the Islamic institutional aspects, the market aspects, and the education aspects. If you have any other question, I can answer.
Thank you. Thank you so much, dear Professor. It was absolutely fascinating, like absolutely and comprehensive, starting from the early days, how it started to develop, all the challenges, difficulties it faced, and of course, all the challenges and difficulties it will face
Yes.
in the short term or in the near future as well. Thank you so much. It's highly appreciated. If I may just bring up a few things it's kind of just popped up in my mind. One is this, because I'm kind of personally interested in that one, I guess. The how to repair, how to heal that, let's say, issues with the lost reputation. Back in, let's say, in the 80s, so nothing happened in 90s, but now starting 2000s, and now it kind of start taking off again. So what is it? Is it just time heals, or were there like any precautions or any strategies followed to heal and recover that reputation, if I may ask you?
I think I classify this in the 3 type of people, type of people probably they didn't see the 80s.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
Even I was born at the end of 70s, but I was fortunate enough to read about it. But that pre or those one who experienced is probably retired now or getting retired. But there are a group of people who just genuinely believe in it. They believe emotionally, they're attached to it. You will always find society people who are always attached to Islamic. For us, anything that starts with Islam is by default become acceptable to us. And there are people who are those, no matter how much you try to convince them, you cannot convince them. You can spend weeks and weeks and months to indulge with them, to engage with them, but somehow they would never accept it. I don't know if those are the people who have the memories or those people who just believe that there is no such as a bank in Islam. And then there is a group of people that still need to be created, need to be aware about. So we need to create awareness about it. So in Pakistan, I think this 23% represent those people who have actually believed one way or another way in Islamic banking from the first day. So we didn't put too much effort to convince them, because when you tell them riba is haram and this is a war against Allah and Rasul, his prophet, and this is the protection, they would just move in that. And there are people who would not believe in it. It's just somehow, no matter what you do it. But there is 60-50% of the people that still need to be aware of. And I think this madrasa approach is very important. And the reason is because not a lot of people are educated, or they're educated, they are not educated enough to understand what is halal, what haram. Everybody believe that riba is haram. You can run a study in your university. Everybody will believe that, who believe in it, well, riba is haram. But when you put a situation where they have to identify what is riba and what is not riba, they would not be able to identify it. So a lot of people in our society are that 50-60% who believe riba is haram, but they don't know what is riba. So they will be told that this profit and loss scheme in a conventional bank is actually Islamic. So we need to reach to them, and we need to make sure that they understand actually that not only it is must for them to know that it is haram, but at the same time, it is important for them to know what is actually a riba. So even we like make jokes. There was this person who was who put their money in a fixed deposit. He was a retired, and somebody wise man came to him and he's like, "Oh, listen, this money is haram because you're getting fixed return from a bank." And this naive person is like, "Oh, the when I should do is," and he's like, "Give it to me. I'll invest for you and I'll give you fixed return." He said, "Okay, I'll give it to you because it's not a bank." And then they say he disappeared after a couple of months. So a lot of people are scared of such instances where people will fool them using religion. So they would rather keep their money because they're retired, they have their pension money, and their pension money is with a fixed return because they cannot go and do a businesses, and they cannot take that money out and give it to somebody to have a business with because they're too old and they're too scared to take their risk. So these needs to be convinced that within the banking institution, within the non-bank institution, there are alternative where they can have a Sharia compliant returns and their money is protected as well. And that is a big chunk of society which has a lot of money in the form of pension, in the form of their savings, but they are not aware of the alternatives that are available. So doing this Madaris course can benefit in that because same people will go to the mosque in peripherals and far, far away from here, and their responsibility will be to educate the common people about Islamic banking, Islamic finance. So I think it's a long route, but I see within 10, 15 year, a very exponential growth in Islamic finance, industry-wise and awareness-wise as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor. A very quick follow-up, whether it's really an authentic follow-up or not, you may argue. Regarding this, the whole essence or substance, you pretty much mentioned one of the key shortcomings was the failure or like failing to internalize certain aspects. You just gave us a couple examples regarding from some industry people. So maybe it's not within your area of let's say interest for the moment, but it might. So if you allow me to ask you how to make people internalize, is it just through awareness? If you do a bit awareness and try to create awareness, will it automatically make people, because at the end of the day, it's a people thing, I guess. In Pakistan, at least we have like less than 10% like penetration in Turkey, but in Pakistan's case, it's already like 1/4. But it may probably will just keep growing. Then if the whole idea is also the going closer to the substance rather than the form, then you will expect people to internalize decision makers, the heads of, industry, and also the average people, the layman on the street. So like how to make them internalize things? Will it be done automatically through creating awareness? And forgive me if it's not a fair question to ask, but I'd like to have your opinion, Professor.
When I was doing a PhD, this is one of the topics we would talk about it, but we would talk about it from a Muslim and Iman. How you can internalize the Iman and how you can do it. If I believe in Allah and I believe that I've been seen by Allah everywhere, but I'll still commit something that is not allowed, So how I can, and your question is, how can I internalize that? How can I internalize that? That's trust, because Iman is trust in one way. And then we would have a lot of discussion, I remember, but somehow we will ended up that maybe there is some issue with the education system. Maybe somehow, I studied, I pray, I read Quran, but I don't understand Arabic. Maybe somehow I learn English, I learn other 2-3 languages in the school, but I didn't learn Arabic. I didn't understand. So somebody else is telling me what is this Quran is speaking about what is this Sunnah is about. Maybe we just need to, because you cannot just, you wish the Iman to happen in everybody, and this Iman, the Quran has written about it, that, when we talk about Qarz Hasna, we talk about Musharaka Mudarba, we talk about Sahaba, and we just talk about few people who knew each other. But now you can hardly know anybody in your neighborhood. So how can you develop that trust? So it comes to that internationalization. And those people had internalized that spirit of Islam. We didn't. So maybe something is missing. Maybe something is missing in the form of understanding the religion. I don't know. Maybe we just need to revisit the education system, because our children, especially in Pakistan, children are growing up. You keep telling them this is halal, this is haram, this is haram. You keep telling them. Sometimes they internalize it, sometimes they don't internalize it. But the awareness is always there. You just keep on. This is how this is how our family system work. We just take them to the mosque with us. They pray with us. But some children internalize a lot of things. Some children don't internalize. So awareness is there. Internalization is not happen. So maybe it's just we need to revisit the education system. I don't know. I think we just need to look into that, how we can internalize through education system, awareness system.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, dear professor. It was absolutely like a fascinating interview and a webinar. Thank you so much for sparing your time. I think we are pretty much done with the allowed time slot, I guess. So would you have any other comments or questions for me before I conclude the session?
No, I think you need to make sure you share the future links with me so I can share with my students.
Absolutely.
Because we need to spread that education. We need to spread that awareness as well. So that's our contribution. As much as we can do it, so we can hear different prospects. We understand those prospects and we internalize them in our life as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor. So with your kind permission, I'm concluding the session now. Basically, I'm leaving the floor to dear Mohammed, who would be technically concluding the session. Mohammed, the floor is yours. Once again, thank you so much, dear Professor. Assalamu alaikum. All the best from Istanbul.